Captain Zethkar stared at the failing control panel with growing fear. Red warning lights flashed across the bridge of the luxury cruiser Serenity's Dream, while alarm sounds filled the air. The main engine had stopped working 3 hours ago, leaving the massive ship floating helplessly in the dark space near a yellow star system. "Sir, the backup power is failing too," said his second officer, Veltar. The younger Altarian's blue skin had turned pale with worry. "We have maybe 12 hours before life support shuts down completely." Zethkar's forearms moved quickly. Across his control station, trying to find any system that still worked properly. Behind him, 300 passengers from 12 different species waited in their cabins, unaware that they might all die in the cold emptiness of space. The ship had been on a pleasure cruise to see the beautiful nebula fields of the outer rim when disaster struck. "Send the emergency signal," Zethkar ordered. "Maybe a council patrol ship will pick it up." His communications officer, a thin creature with 6 eyes named Hixana, worked at her station. "Signal is broadcasting, Captain. We are very far from the normal shipping routes. The nearest council base is 4 days away, even at maximum speed." Everyone on the bridge knew what that meant. They would be dead long before help could arrive. The ship's recycling systems were already struggling to keep the air breathable for so many different species. Some needed more oxygen, others needed less. The delicate balance was breaking down as power levels dropped. Zethkar looked out at the stars through the main viewer. One star burned brighter than the others, the system's yellow sun. He knew from his navigation charts that this system contained several planets, including one that was listed in the council records as a forbidden world. A death world inhabited by savage creatures, too dangerous for civilized contact. The thought made him shudder. Every child in council space knew the stories about Deathworlders. Came from planets so hostile that only the most violent and cruel species could survive there. The creatures fought endless wars, ate other living beings, and turned their worlds into testing grounds for terrible weapons. The council had strict rules about avoiding such systems for good reason. Meanwhile, far away on the third planet of that same star system, Lieutenant Commander Jake Martinez was enjoying a quiet night shift aboard the human exploration vessel New Horizon. The small ship carried a crew of 80 brave souls on humanity's first deep space mission beyond the solar system. They had been traveling for 6 months, studying asteroids and mapping the local region of space. Jake sat in the captain's chair, sipping coffee from a metal cup while watching the stars on the main screen. Most of the crew was asleep during the night cycle, leaving only essential personnel on duty. The bridge was peaceful, with only the soft humming of the ship's systems and the occasional beep from the sensor stations. "Sir," called communications officer Amy Rodriguez from her station. "I'm picking up something strange on the emergency frequencies." Jake set down his coffee and walked over to Amy's station. The young woman had dark hair pulled back in a regulation ponytail and wore the blue jumpsuit of the Earth Space Service. She was one of the best communication specialists in the fleet, the talent for finding signals in the background noise of space. "What kind of signal?" Jake asked, leaning over her shoulder to look at the display screens. "The pattern is too complex to be natural, but it's not using any human communication protocols." Amy adjusted her headset and frowned at the data scrolling across her screens. "It's coming from about 2 million kilometers away, near the edge of our sensor range." Jake felt his heart rate increase. This could be the discovery that changed everything for humanity. "Can you clean up the signal? Get a better reading on it?" Amy's fingers danced across her controls. "I'm trying, sir. There's a lot of interference, but I think I can filter out some of the noise." She worked for several minutes while Jake waited impatiently. Finally, she looked up with excitement in her eyes. "Sir, I think this might be a distress call." "From who?" Jake asked, though he already suspected the answer would be something incredible. "Unknown, sir. But the signal strength suggests a large vessel, much bigger than ours. And the power output is way beyond anything Earth has ever built." Jake stared at the data on Amy's screen. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now, it seemed like they might be about to find out. But if this was really an alien ship in distress, what should they do about it? The standing. Orders from Earth were clear about first contact situations. Any evidence of alien life should be reported immediately to headquarters, and no direct contact should be made without approval. But getting a message back to Earth would take weeks. And if this really was a distress call, the aliens might not have weeks to wait. "Wake up, Dr. Chen," Jake ordered. "Tell her we might have a first contact situation. And get Chief Thompson up here too. If we're going to help whoever is out there, we'll need our best people." Amy nodded and began making calls to the crew quarters. Within minutes, the bridge started filling up with people. Dr. Lisa Chen arrived first, still wearing her pajamas under a hastily thrown-on lab coat. She was the ship's specialist in theoretical alien biology, though until now her work had been purely academic. "Is it really them?" she asked breathlessly. "Real aliens?" "Don't know yet," Jake replied. But Amy picked up what looks like a distress signal from a large unknown vessel. Chief Engineer Rick Thompson appeared next, a big man with grease-stained hands who kept the New Horizon running smoothly. "You need me to look at something, Commander?" "Maybe," Jake said. "Depends on whether we decide to investigate this signal." Navigation Officer Pete Wilson had been monitoring the conversation from his station. "Sir, I've got a location fix on the signal source. It's coming from a ship that's drifting without power about 6 hours away at our current speed." Dr. Chen moved to one of the science stations and began analyzing the signal data. "The power output patterns don't match anything we know about. This technology is definitely not human in origin." Jake looked around at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for his decision. He knew that whatever choice he made right now would go down in history. Humanity's first contact with an alien species was happening on his watch, on his ship, with his crew. "Amy, can you tell if the signal is getting weaker?" he asked. "Yes, sir, it is. The power levels have dropped by about 15% since we first detected it. If the current rate continues, the signal will fade completely within 10 to 12 hours. That decided it for Jake. These aliens, whoever they were in real trouble. They needed help, and the New Horizon was the only ship close enough to provide it. The regulations about first contact were important, but saving lives was more important.
"How?" "Set course for the signal source," he ordered. "Maximum safe speed. Amy, keep monitoring their transmissions and see if you can figure out any kind of communication."
Protocol. "Lisa, I want you to start thinking about what kinds of life support requirements they might have. Rick, make sure our ship is ready for anything." As the New Horizon changed course toward the alien vessel, Jake wondered what they would find when they arrived. Would the aliens be friendly or hostile? Would they even be able to communicate with each other? Most importantly, would humanity's first impression on the galactic community be a good one? None of them knew that their decision to help would change the course of history for both species. The aliens they were racing to save had been taught their entire lives to fear creatures like humans. And the humans had no idea they were about to become heroes in the eyes of an entire galactic civilization. The New Horizon flew through the darkness toward an encounter that would prove that sometimes the most dangerous-looking species can also be the most compassionate ones. Captain Zethkar watched the unknown ship approaching on his scanner display with a mixture of terror and desperate hope. The vessel was much smaller than his luxury cruiser, but it moved with purpose through the darkness of space, and its design was completely unfamiliar, angular, and rough-looking compared to the smooth curves of council ships. "Sir, they are trying to communicate with us," reported Hicksina from her station. Her 6 eyes flickered nervously as she adjusted her translation equipment. "The signal is very primitive, but I think I can understand some of it." "What are they?" Sang Zethkar asked, his forearms gripping the sides of his command chair. "They're asking if we need help. They say they received our distress call." Hicksina paused and looked up at her captain with confusion. "Sir, the language patterns match the species from the third planet of this system, the Deathworlders." A cold silence fell over the bridge. Every member of the crew knew what that meant. The savage inhabitants of the Forbidden World had heard their cry for help and were coming to investigate, according to everything they had been taught. This was the worst possible outcome. Zethkar's mind raced through his limited options. His ship was dying around him. The life support systems were failing faster than his engineers could repair them. Several passengers had already been moved to emergency. medical care as the air quality dropped in certain sections of the vessel. They had maybe 10 hours left before the situation became completely hopeless. But accepting help from Deathworlders violated every law and regulation of the Galactic Council. These creatures were classified as extremely dangerous for good reason. They came from a high-gravity world filled with deadly predators, violent weather, and toxic substances. Only the most aggressive and ruthless species could survive in such conditions, sir? What should we do? Asked Veltar quietly. The younger officer's voice shook with fear. Zethkar stared at the approaching ship on his display. Every story he had ever heard about Deathworlders ran through his mind. They were said to keep other species as slaves, to conduct horrible experiments on living beings, to fight wars that lasted for generations over the smallest disagreements. Their world was covered with weapons capable of destroying entire cities, and they had actually used such weapons on themselves. "Captain, we are receiving another transmission," Hixina announced. "They are asking for permission to help with our repairs. They say they have medical supplies and engineering expertise." The communication officer's translation equipment crackled with static as she tried to clean up the alien signal. The Deathworlder language was harsh and strange to her ears, but she was beginning to understand its basic structure. Meanwhile, aboard the New Horizon, Lieutenant Commander Jake Martinez stood on his bridge watching the alien vessel grow larger on their main screen. The ship was beautiful in its own way, with flowing lines and elegant curves that suggested an advanced artistic sensibility. But it was also clearly in serious trouble. "Life support readings are critical," reported Dr. Lisa Chen from the Science Station. "Whatever species are on that ship, they're running out of breathable air fast." Chief Engineer Rick Thompson studied the sensor data with professional interest. "Their power systems are completely shot. Main engines are offline. Backup generators are failing. It's amazing they're still alive at all." Jake nodded grimly. "How long do they have?" 8 to 10 hours at most," Rick replied. "Maybe less if they have a large crew." Communications Officer Amy Rodriguez looked up from her station with excitement. In her voice, "Sir, I think I'm starting to understand their language. It's complex, but there are patterns I can work with. They're definitely in distress, and they seem to understand that we want to help." "What's their response?" Jake asked. "They haven't given us permission to approach yet, sir. I think they're scared of us." Jake frowned at that. Why would an advanced alien species be afraid of humans? The New Horizon was obviously much smaller and less sophisticated than their vessel, which maybe they were just being cautious about first contact, which would actually be pretty smart. "Keep trying to communicate," he ordered. "Make it clear that we only want to help. No aggressive moves, no weapons powered up." "Amy, can you transmit some kind of universal friendship message?" Amy worked at her station, trying to find the right combination of mathematical concepts and simple images that might convey peaceful intentions. She sent pictures of the New Horizon with its weapon systems clearly shut down, medical symbols from Earth, and basic mathematical sequences that proved human intelligence. Back on the Serenity's Dream, Xena was struggling to understand the flood of information coming from the human ship. The mathematical sequences were clever and clearly showed that these Deathworlders possessed advanced intelligence. The medical symbols were harder to interpret, but they seemed to indicate healing, rather than harm. "Sir, they are sending us technical data about their ship," she reported. "All weapon systems are powered down. They appear to be ... offering to share their medical supplies with us." Zethkar felt his worldview beginning to crack. "We're supposed to be mindlessly aggressive. They weren't supposed to understand concepts like mercy or medical aid, yet the evidence was right there on his screens." "They're also sending engineering data," added his chief engineer, a insectoid creature named Clickster. "Some of their repair techniques are very ... creative, primitive, but effective." The captain of the alien vessel faced the hardest decision of his career: accept help from the galaxy's most feared species and probably doom his passengers too. Fate worse than death, or maintain council protocols and watch everyone on his ship slowly suffocate. "Sir, we're getting another transmission," Hixina announced. "They're asking how many people are on our ship and what kind of life support we need. They want to know if we require specific atmospheric mixtures." That stopped Zethkar cold. Would aggressive predators care about the life support needs of their prey? According to council records, Deathworlders simply took what they wanted without concern for other species. They're also asking about our medical requirements, Hixina continued. I want to know if anyone is injured and what kind of treatment we might need. The bridge crew stared at their captain in confusion. This behavior made no sense according to everything they had been taught. Deathworlders were supposed to attack first and ask questions later, not offer medical assistance to complete strangers. Zethkar looked around at his failing ship. Emergency lights cast red shadows across the bridge as more systems shut down to conserve power. In the distance, he could hear the sounds of frightened passengers as news of their situation spread through the vessel. On the human ship, Jake was growing impatient with the lack of response. Amy, tell them we understand they might be afraid of us, but we're running out of time. Ask them to at least let us try to help. Amy composed a careful message using the translation protocols she had developed. She tried to convey urgency without seeming threatening, explaining that human ships carried universal medical supplies and engineering tools that might save lives. Sir, I'm also sending them information about human biology, Dr. Chen added. Maybe if they understand that we're not that different from them, they'll be less afraid. The biological data that arrived on Zethkar's ship was perhaps the most shocking revelation yet. The Deathworlders were carbon-based oxygen breathers, just like most council species. They had similar internal organ systems, similar nutritional needs, similar lifespans. The only major difference was that they came from a much more dangerous world. Captain, said his medical officer, Dr. Yexhai, according to this data, their medical supplies might actually work on our people, and their biology suggests they understand pain and suffering just like we do. That was the moment when Zethkar finally understood the terrible mistake the council had made. These weren't mindless monsters from a hellish world. They were people who had learned to survive in conditions that would kill most civilized species. And now they were offering to share that hard-won knowledge to save lives. Hixana, open a communication channel, he ordered with a heavy heart. Tell them, tell them, we accept their help. The communication officer's hands shook as she sent the message. Every instinct told her this was wrong, but the logic was undeniable. It's better to risk unknown dangers than to face certain death. When the human ship received permission to approach, Jake felt a mixture of relief and excitement. Humanity was about to make contact with an alien species for the first time in history. Whatever happened next would determine how the human race was. Remembered by the galaxy, take us in slowly, he ordered his pilot. And everybody remember, we're representing all of humanity right now. Let's make a good first impression. As the New Horizon moved closer to the dying alien vessel, neither crew could imagine how this meeting would change both their species. Forever, the humans were about to discover they weren't alone in the universe. The aliens were about to learn that the galaxy's most feared creatures were actually its most compassionate ones. The docking bay doors of the Serenity's Dream opened with a grinding sound that spoke of failing machinery. Captain Zethkar stood with his security team waiting for the Deathworlders to board his ship. His forearms trembled slightly as he prepared to meet the monsters from his childhood nightmares. The first human to step through the airlock was not what he expected at all. Dr. Karen Hayes was a middle-aged woman with graying hair and kind eyes behind protective glasses. She carried a large medical bag and moved with the calm confidence of someone who had spent years helping people in emergency situations. Hello, she said in careful, broken Galactic standard that Amy Rodriguez had helped her practice during the approach. I am Doctor. I help people. Behind her came Chief Engineer Rick Thompson, a big man with gentle hands who immediately began studying the failing systems around the docking bay. His scanner devices beeped quietly as he took readings. On everything from air pressure to structural integrity, Zethkar stared at them in confusion. These creatures looked nothing like the terrifying beasts from council propaganda films. He seemed concerned about his ship and his people, not interested in conquest or destruction.
Wow.
Your ship is very sick, Dr. Hayes said, pointing to her. Medical scanner. Many people inside need help. I can help them, you. ... Want to heal our passengers? Zethkar asked carefully, still not quite believing what he was hearing. Yes, Dr. Hayes replied simply. That is what doctors do. More humans came through the airlock, all carrying equipment and supplies. Sergeant Danny Foster organized the rescue teams with quiet efficiency, while Nurse Sue Baker began setting up a mobile medical station right there in the docking bay. None of them showed any signs of the savage bloodlust that supposedly drove all Deathworld species. Dr. Hayes approached one of the Altarian security officers, who was clearly having trouble breathing. Without asking permission, she gently placed her scanner against his chest and frowned at the readings. Air is bad for you, she said, then reached into her medical bag and pulled out a small breathing device. This will help. The alien officer looked terrified as the human doctor fitted the mask over his breathing passages. But within seconds, his labored breathing became easier, and his blue skin began to return to its normal color. How did you know what to do? Asked Dr. Yexhai, the ship's chief medical officer. She was a tall, thin creature with multiple arms who had studied medicine for over a century. Dr. Hayes smiled and tapped her scanner. All people need good air to live. I study many different kinds of people on my world. We help everyone. The rescue operation spread throughout the ship. Aliens began to witness something that challenged everything they thought they knew about Deathworlders. The humans worked tirelessly to help complete strangers, sharing their supplies and knowledge without asking for anything in return. Engineer Thompson crawled through dangerous sections of the ship that the alien crew had given up on, muttering to himself about creative solutions to impossible problems. He found ways to reroute power using spare parts and techniques that amazed the sophisticated alien engineers. Your people are very clever, admitted Clickster, the insectoid chief engineer, as he watched Thompson jury-rig a failing atmospheric processor using nothing but spare cables and determination. We have to be, Thompson replied, wiping sweat from his forehead. Our world tries to kill us every day. We learn to fix things or we die. That simple statement helped explain so much. To the watching aliens, these humans weren't violent by choice. They were survivors, would learn to adapt to anything their hostile world could throw at them. And now they were using those same skills to save alien lives. Dr. Hayes made her way through the ship's medical bay, working alongside alien doctors who had initially feared her touch. She quickly learned to read the vital signs of species she had never seen before, adapting her Earth-trained knowledge to help beings with different biologies. This medicine works on your people too, she explained to Dr. Yexhai while treating a young Keltharian passenger who was suffering from respiratory distress. Pain is pain. Sickness is sickness. Bodies want to be healthy. The human doctor's simple approach to medicine impressed the alien medical staff. While they had spent decades studying the complex differences between species, Dr. Hayes focused on the basic similarities that all living things shared. Nurse Baker set up a comfortable area for the most seriously injured passengers, making sure each species had the right atmospheric mixture and temperature. She learned to recognize signs of distress in creatures that looked nothing like humans, responding to their needs with the same care she would show to patients back on Earth. Why do you help us? Asked a young Altarian mother whose child doctor Hayes had just successfully treated for a severe allergic reaction to the ship's failing air recyclers. We are not your people. Dr. Hayes looked puzzled by the question. You are in trouble. We can help. That is enough. Throughout the ship, similar scenes were playing out. Human rescue workers were risking their own safety to help alien passengers, crawling through damaged sections and breathing contaminated air without complaint. They shared their food rations with hungry aliens and gave up their own comfort items to make the evacuation more bearable. Communications. Officer Amy Rodriguez worked with the alien communication teams to coordinate the rescue effort. Her natural talent for languages allowed her to pick up enough of each alien dialect to communicate basic needs and instructions. Your ship will not fly again, she explained gently to Captain Zethkar. But our ship is strong. We take everyone to a safe place. The alien captain struggled to understand what he was hearing. You would take all of our people onto your vessel. But we are strangers to you. That does not matter, Amy replied. People in danger need help. That is simple. As the hours passed, and the rescue operation continued. More and more aliens began to realize that everything they had been taught about Deathworlders was wrong. These humans weren't monsters. They were the most compassionate and helpful beings, many of them, had ever encountered. The breakthrough moment came when a section of the alien ship suffered a massive system failure that threatened to kill dozens of passengers. The alien crew panicked, but the humans responded with the kind of calm efficiency that only comes from a lifetime of dealing with emergencies. Corpsman. Billy Chen sealed a dangerous hull breach using welding techniques he had learned working. On underwater oil rigs back on Earth, technician Gary Miller rigged an emergency life support system using spare parts from 3 different broken machines, and Dr. Hayes performed emergency surgery on a critically injured Procyon passenger using surgical tools designed for human anatomy. Your people do not fear danger, observed Captain Zethkar as he watched the humans work. Commander Martinez, who had come aboard to personally oversee the rescue, shrugged at the comment. Fear does not help anyone. Work helps people. But surely you must want something in return for all this help, the alien captain insisted. What payment do you require? Jake looked genuinely confused by the question. Payment. These are people who need help. We help people. That is what good people do. The simple honesty in his voice shook Zethkar to his core. In all his years serving with the Galactic Council, he had never encountered such selfless behavior. Every species he knew would have demanded something in return for such extensive aid. As the last of the alien passengers were safely evacuated to the New Horizon, Dr. Hayes took one final walk through the dying ship to make sure no one had been left behind. She found Captain Zethkar standing alone on his bridge, staring at the darkened control panels. Time to go, she said gently. Your ship is finished, but your people are safe. Zethkar turned to look at this human who had saved so many lives. Why? He asked simply. Why risk your lives for strangers? Dr. Hayes smiled and placed a comforting hand on his shoulder, because that is what makes us people instead of animals. We take care of each other. As they walked together toward the airlock, Zethkar realized that he was witnessing something historic. The galaxy's understanding of Deathworlders was about to change forever. And it was all because a group of humans had chosen to respond to a distress call with compassion instead of suspicion. The New Horizon departed from the wreckage of Serenities, dream carrying for times its normal capacity, but somehow everyone fit. Humans and aliens worked together to make the overcrowded conditions bearable, sharing space and resources with the natural cooperation that would soon become humanity's trademark in galactic society. The New Horizon had never been so crowded. Every corridor buzzed with activity as humans and aliens worked together to make the overcrowded ship livable for everyone. What had started as a rescue mission was turning into something much more important. The first real cooperation between humans and the wider galaxy. Lieutenant Rodriguez walked through the main cargo bay that had been converted into temporary living quarters for the Keltharian families. The tall, graceful aliens had been the most seriously affected by the failing life support systems on their original ship. Now they were recovering quickly in the clean air of the human vessel. Your ship's air is very good for us, said Elder Catherine, one of the Keltharian leaders. Better even than our home world. How do you make it so pure? Amy smiled as she checked the environmental controls. Our world has many dangerous things in the air. Poison gases, dust storms, radiation. We learn to make very good air cleaners, or we die. The elder's large eyes widened with understanding. Your dangerous world taught you to solve problems that help other people too. That was exactly right, though Amy had never thought about it that way before. Growing up on Earth meant learning to deal with hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and dozens of other natural disasters. Every human child learned basic survival skills that most galactic species never needed in the engineering section. Chief Thompson was having the time of his life working with alien engineers, who were amazed by human problem-solving techniques. The ship's main computer had been overloaded by the extra passengers, but Thompson had found ways to boost its capacity using parts from broken alien equipment. You use this for what? Asked Engineer Clickster, holding up a piece of metal that Thompson had turned into a crucial component for the life support system. Back home, we call that a paperclip, Thompson explained with a grin. but it can hold things together when you need it to. My grandfather always said any problem can be fixed if you have enough paper clips and tape. The insectoid engineer chittered, and what Thompson had learned was laughter. Your people see solutions where we see only broken things. That observation was spreading throughout the ship as aliens watched humans adapt to every new challenge. When the food replicators couldn't handle the dietary needs of 12 different species, the human crew simply started cooking meals by hand. Adjusting recipes and ingredients until everyone could eat safely, cook Maria Santos had never imagined. She would be preparing meals for beings with completely different digestive systems. But she approached the challenge with the same creativity she used back on Earth. She worked with alien passengers to understand their nutritional needs. Then, found ways to modify human foods to work for everyone. "This tastes like home," said a young Altarian, as he tried Maria's version of their traditional grain dish. "How did you know to add these spices?" "Your grandmother told me what she remembered," Maria replied, pointing to an elderly Altarian, a woman who had been sharing cooking tips. "Food is about more than just eating. It is about feeling safe and happy." The real test of human adaptability came when the ship's artificial gravity system started failing under the extra load. Most species would have panicked at the thought of floating helplessly in zero gravity. But the humans simply adapted their daily routines to work in the new conditions. Dr. Hayes found that performing gamming medical examinations was actually easier in low gravity, since she could position patients in ways that would be impossible under normal conditions. She taught alien medical staff techniques for working in zero gravity that had been developed by human space workers over generations. "You move like you were born in space," observed Dr. Yexai as she watched Dr. Hayes glide effortlessly between patients while adjusting to the changing gravity levels. "Humans learn to adapt or we die," Dr. Hayes replied simply. "Our world changes all the time. Whether earthquakes, floods, we learn to work in any conditions." The most impressive demonstration of human adaptability came when a critical power junction overloaded, threatening to shut down life support for the entire ship. The junction was located in a section that was now flooded with radiation from the damaged alien equipment. The alien engineers declared the area too dangerous to enter, but technician Gary Miller just shrugged and started putting on his radiation suit. "This is nothing compared to working in a nuclear plant during a storm," he said calmly. Miller crawled through the radioactive section like it was just another day at the office, making repairs that saved everyone on the ship. When he emerged an hour later, slightly glowing from radiation exposure, he was more concerned about missing lunch than about his own safety. "Is he going to be okay?" Captain Zethkar asked Dr. Hayes with genuine concern. "Gary, he will be fine," Dr. Hayes replied after scanning the technician with her medical equipment. "Humans are very hard to kill. Our world made us tough." That toughness was on display throughout the ship as humans casually handled situations that would terrify most civilized species. They fixed dangerous electrical problems while standing in pools of water, repaired hull breaches while hanging outside the ship in spacesuits, and worked calmly through emergency situations that made alien crew members panic. But what impressed the aliens most was not just human toughness, but human kindness in the face of danger. Even when dealing with life-threatening situations, the humans never forgot to check on their alien passengers and make sure everyone was safe and comfortable. Young Corpsman Billy Chen spent his off-duty hours teaching alien children human games and stories, helping them cope with the fear and confusion of being refugees. He showed them how to make paper airplanes and taught them songs that made them laugh despite their scary situation. "Why do you spend time with our children when you have so much work to do?" asked a Procyon mother whose daughter had become particularly attached to Billy. "Children need to feel safe," Billy replied while showing a group of young aliens how to fold origami animals. "If the children are happy, the adults worry less. If the adults worry less, everyone works better together." The simple wisdom in his words struck the alien parents deeply. These humans understood things about community and cooperation that many advanced civilizations had forgotten in their pursuit of technology and efficiency. As the days passed during their journey to the nearest council station, barriers between species continued to break down. Humans shared their music with aliens, who had never heard Earth instruments. aliens taught humans about their histories and cultures, amazed by how quickly the humans learned and adapted to new concepts. Navigator Pete Wilson spent hours with Altarian astronomers, comparing star charts and navigation techniques. He was fascinated to learn that different species had developed completely different ways of traveling through space. And he immediately began thinking about how human and alien methods could be combined to create something better than either alone. Your people think differently than we do, observed Chief Navigator Seldar. You see connections where we see only separate problems. Maybe that is because our world forced us to think that way, Pete replied. On Earth, everything is connected. Weather affects plants, plants affect animals, animals affect weather. We learn to see the big picture, or we miss important warnings. The breakthrough moment came when several alien passengers approached Commander Martinez with an unusual request. They wanted to learn how to help with the ship's operations, not just be passengers waiting to be rescued. We want to work too, explained Elder Catherine, where people work so hard to help us. We want to help back. Jake was surprised by the request. You don't need to work. You are our guests. No, the Elder insisted. We are not guests anymore. We are a crew. We are family now. That simple statement captured something important that was happening aboard the New Horizon. The crisis had brought different species together in a way that normal diplomacy never could have achieved. They had learned to trust each other, to work together, to care about each other's welfare as they approached their destination. Everyone on the ship knew that something historic had occurred. The galaxy would never be the same after this. First real contact between humans and alien civilizations, and it all started with a simple human decision to help strangers in distress, proving that the most important human characteristic was not their toughness or adaptability, but their fundamental decency toward others. Council Station Harmony 7 hung in space like a giant silver flower, its many arms reaching out to welcome ships from across the galaxy. Administrator Kelson, a rigid Procyanid with gray fur and sharp yellow eyes, stood in the main docking control room watching the approaching human vessel with growing alarm. Sir, the New Horizon is requesting permission to dock, reported his communications officer. They report carrying refugee passengers from the destroyed luxury cruiser Serenity's Dream. Kelson's ears twitched nervously. How many refugees? 318 beings from 12 different species, sir. The human crew. 80 humans, sir. They appear to be working together with the refugees. Kelson felt his stomach drop. A ship full of Deathworlders was approaching his station, carrying hundreds of civilized beings as prisoners. This was exactly the kind of disaster that Council protocols were designed to prevent. He immediately activated the station's emergency defense systems and called for a full security alert. Prepare to isolate the human vessel in Docking Bay 7. He ordered full containment protocols. You may need to conduct a rescue operation. But as the New Horizons slowly approached the docking bay, something strange became visible through the station's observation windows. Humans and aliens were working together on the ship's bridge, clearly cooperating rather than in a prisoner guard relationship. Kelson increased the magnification on his viewers and watched in confusion as human and alien crew members moved freely throughout the vessel. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from Captain Zethkar of the destroyed cruiser, announced the communications officer. He requests permission to speak with you directly. Kelson hesitated. If the humans had taken prisoners, they might be forcing the alien captain to cooperate, but he needed to understand what was happening before he made any decisions about how to respond. Put him through. Captain Zethkar's image appeared on the main screen. Kelson was shocked by what he saw. The Altarian captain looked healthy and unharmed. More surprising, there was a human female standing beside him, Dr. Hayes, though Kelson didn't know her name yet. Administrator Kelson, Zethkar said formally. I must report a complete violation of Council protocols regarding contact with Deathworld species. However, I also must report that this violation saved the lives of everyone aboard my vessel. Explain, Kelson demanded, his claws clicking nervously on his control panel. When our ship suffered catastrophic failure, these humans responded to our distress call. They risked their own safety to rescue us, shared their supplies and medical care, and asked for nothing in return. Every person on my ship owes their life to human compassion and skill. Kelson stared at the screen in disbelief. Captain, are you speaking freely? Are you under any kind of coercion? Zethkar's forearms spread wide in the Altarian gesture of absolute honesty. Administrator, I have never spoken more freely in my life. These humans are not the monsters we were taught to fear. They are the most decent and helpful beings I have ever encountered. Dr. Hayes stepped forward and spoke in her careful galactic standard. We only want to help people be safe. We bring hurt people to good place for healing. Her simple words and obvious sincerity struck Kelson like a physical blow. This was not how Deathworlders were supposed to behave. They were supposed to be savage and aggressive, not concerned about healing and safety. As the New Horizon docked with the station, Kelson watched through security cameras as the most remarkable scene unfolded. Humans and aliens disembarked, together, talking and laughing like old friends. Human crew members helped elderly alien passengers with their belongings. Alien children played games with human adults who had clearly taught them Earth songs and stories. Sir, said his security chief, a muscular Keltharian named Voshter, this does not match any of our threat scenarios. The humans appeared to be helping the refugees settle in. Kelson made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his career. Instead of following protocol and immediately separating the humans from the aliens, he decided to observe and gather information first. What he observed over the following hours challenged everything he thought he knew about the galaxy. The humans set up temporary shelters for the refugee families, sharing their own supplies and making sure everyone had food and medical care. They worked with station personnel to arrange proper accommodations, translating between different languages and helping with administrative paperwork. Dr. Hayes established a medical clinic right there in the docking bay, treating both aliens and humans with the same careful attention. She worked alongside the station's medical staff, sharing knowledge and techniques that amazed the experienced alien doctors. Their medical approach is very practical, reported Dr. Zexanil, the station's chief medical officer. They focus on what works rather than what theory says should work. Several of their treatments are more effective than our standard procedures. Engineer Thompson immediately volunteered to help with station maintenance, offering to share human engineering techniques with the station's technical staff. Within hours, he'd improved the efficiency of 3 different systems using methods that were completely new to alien engineers. They see solutions that never occurred to us, admitted Chief Engineer Mordock. Their approach to problem solving is very different from ours, but it works extremely well. The most powerful moment came when Administrator Kelson finally met Commander Martinez face to face. The human officer was tired after days of caring for hundreds of refugees. But his eyes were bright with satisfaction at having saved so many lives. Commander Martinez Kelson said carefully, I must ask you directly, what do you want in return for your rescue of these people? Jake looked genuinely puzzled by the question. Want? I don't understand. Payment, territory, technology, resources. What do humans want from the Council in exchange for this rescue operation? Jake's confusion deepened. We don't want anything. These people needed help, so we helped them. That's what anyone should do. Kelson felt his worldview crumbling. But surely you must want something. Your species has made contact with Galactic civilization. This is an opportunity to negotiate for advantages. The only thing we want, Jake said quietly, is to know that we did the right thing. These people are safe now. That's enough. The simple honesty in his voice shook Kelson to his core. In all his years of diplomatic service, he had never encountered such selfless behavior from any species. Everyone always wanted something in return for their help. Over the following days, as news of the rescue spread throughout the station and beyond, more and more council officials arrived to investigate the situation. Each one expected to find evidence of human aggression or deception. Instead, they found humans working quietly alongside aliens, sharing knowledge and helping wherever they could. The breakthrough came when Elder Catherine requested a formal meeting with the station's council representative. The elderly had become something of a spokesperson for the rescued passengers. "Honored Administrator," he said in the formal council chamber, "I must speak truth about these humans. They are not Deathworlders as we understand the term. They are people who learn to survive on a dangerous world, and that learning made them the most helpful and kind beings we have ever met. But the reports about their world," Kelson protested, "the weapons, the wars, the violence, yes, their world is dangerous," Elder Catherine agreed. "But danger taught them to work together, not fight each other. When they saw us in trouble, their first thought was to help, not to take advantage." Captain Zethkar stood up to add his testimony. "Administrator, I have filed a complete report about the rescue operation. Every detail supports the same conclusion. Humans are not the monsters we feared. They are potential allies who could teach the entire galaxy new ways of solving problems and helping each other." As the formal hearings continued, it became clear that everything the council thought it knew about Deathworlders was wrong. The classification had been based on fear and misunderstanding, not on actual knowledge of what humans were really like. Dr. Hayes was invited to share her medical knowledge with council doctors. Engineer Thompson conducted workshops on human and problem-solving techniques. Communications Officer Rodriguez helped establish better translation protocols between human and alien languages. Most importantly, the rescued passengers began sharing their stories throughout council space. Word spread quickly about the humans who had risked everything to save strangers, asking nothing in return except the satisfaction of having done the right thing. The official report that Administrator Kelson eventually filed with the Galactic Council would trigger the greatest policy review in council history. For the first time, a species classified as Deathworlders had proven themselves to be not only peaceful, but actively helpful to other civilizations. Commander Martinez and his crew were invited to remain at the station as unofficial ambassadors. While the council decided how to handle this unprecedented situation, the humans agreed, though they made it clear that their main concern was making sure the rescued passengers found permanent homes and safety.